Better leave it to the professionals.
Blessed by Bundy, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been golden when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Call her Era Lord. Call me Levi, playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like the Brown James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Refuse not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gon' stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum NFTs. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I got a shout out
Started
to
off with a
Body.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Freaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the drive with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining. If you've already done so, do us a favor, drop us a GM in the chat down below, then head up top, smash that like, repost, and bookmark on today's space. We greatly appreciate it. Warms up the algo and does us a real solid. You also see up there the link to the abstract chat as well as YouTube. GM to all of our GMers. No first GMs over in YouTube yet, but as always, we got Teacher Katie and actually Smart Dumb Man over in abstract getting the chat warmed up over there. Mel is slacking as well as the new year kicks off. 9th GM in the X spaces, but appreciate all of you out there helping get this thing warmed up and the new year kicked off right. I guess we had how to go look. We did have I saw a lot of happy 2026, which appreciate that. Happy 2026 to you. Happy New Year. Hope everyone weekend was enjoyable. I know many of you were off last week and enjoyed some downtime. I had to check because I wasn't sure. I was like, we did have a show already in 2026, right? We had two, not one, but we had two, the first and the second. As always, if you missed any of those shows, want to catch the playbacks, the newsletter is your best spot to go for that. coffeewithcaptain.com or coffeewithcaptain.beehive.com, and you can find all the past recordings and appreciate the love on those. If you haven't yet, also while we're getting things intros out of the way here, go hit our YouTube linked up top. We love the subscriptions over there. I'm going to have to plug that at least every day so we can beat Sun Frontin' before year end. The race is on. That said, I'm Cap, no co-host today, but the stage is open. Always an open stage here. If you have any questions, you feel free or comments, or anything you want to add to the conversation, please do drop that in the chat or throw in a request to join me on stage. Would appreciate it. my first ever 2-hour monologue on Friday. Hopefully no more 2-hour monologues, but we'll roll with whatever the day gives us. Part of my favorite part of the show is the unknown. I see Jeremy out there, Girl in the Verse, Imlo, Diablito, Dort. Remind me, I see Maria. Remind me, we do need to highlight Imlo's collection at some point. We gave away a couple of those. Jambert and I forget the other winner, but it is in my in DMs there. I will open those up in a second, and we'll figure out. Jambert did get confirmation. I believe it was Jambert won the Imlo Pass, or it was either the Imlo Pass or the OpenSea Claw Pool, one of the two. Either way, appreciate all of our contributions there. Looking forward to some more fun stuff in 2026. And as always, never any financial advice this year. Crypto is risky, NFTs are risky, meme coins exceptionally risky. Despite the pumps, it all can go back to zero at a moment's notice. Please don't put any money in you can't afford to lose. Know that I'll hold tokens I'll talk about from time to time here on the show. I'm not a financial advisor, certainly not your financial advisor. Don't join me for that. Just join for some fun, some information, maybe a little bit of education along the way. Although the education will not be on geopolitics. I'm not an expert. I'll share some comments and specifically how I believe it might relate to the market. But I really don't know what is happening. Your guess is as good as mine. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least hit on. It is certainly market related. And as always, I also will talk about things near and dear to my heart and on my mind. And this weekend was certainly impacted. If you're not aware, I'm dating a Venezuelan and have spent most of the holidays with her friends and family. And I've become a big fan of not just her, but the people, the culture. And as I said yesterday, I am delighted, ecstatic, I don't know, fill in the word, thrilled for my girlfriend and her family, and something that I've never been close to any situation like this in my lifetime. And so it hit a little different. The mix of emotions, thanks to my chronically online habits and doing what you're not supposed to do and checking your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning, rolled over, I don't even know what time on, I guess, Saturday morning. And was somewhat in shock, waited till she woke up, shared the news. She too took a minute to register, was in shock, something that her and many like her have been hopeful for, oftentimes I'm sure lost hope, but we're hopeful for the last couple of decades. And I heard some stories prior to this and the life that have been forced to navigate due to back-to-back dictators. And I'm not a warmonger. I'm anti-war, and not something that I'm anti-unnatural death in general. That said, I'm also anti-tyranny and evil dictators. And this stuff's messy. Again, I'm not the expert. I don't know the proper way, the ideal way to do this stuff. There's probably no ideal way. All I know is I am proud to be an American. I'm proud that we are helping another country, a group of people, millions of humans, 8 million of which have been forced to leave their country. It is a modern day humanitarian crisis. If you're not familiar, it's tragic what's transpired in Venezuela. It's a beautiful country. The culture is incredible. The people are incredible. I'm sure there's non-incredible people. The ones I've had chance to interact with are amazing individuals, and I'm grateful they've come to my life. And I'm excited that they now have hope. It's definitely not done. Still a lot of uncertainty, and the next weeks, months, years will be critical in how things turn out. All I know is from direct interactions, both with her and people that her family that's still in Venezuela. She's got many brothers and sisters, most of which have been forced to flee the country. And these are smart, intelligent individuals, orthopedic surgeons and doctors, and her family's very well educated, very successful. And, they've had to leave to the US, to Chile. And while her mom and others remain in Venezuela, they're not in Caracas, and so not directly impacted by this. She does have friends in Caracas who are still, without power, and one as a single mom of a young kid, and kind of freaking out because unsure where they're going to get basic needs this week. Basic food, flour for their arepas. It's not a joke. Like it's. I think a lot of people like to share commentary, talk about things that are you like to monitor the situation, myself included. And we've never you can't even comprehend what it's like to live in an environment like that. And I am pro humanity. I am anti unnatural death. I don't want to see wars. I don't want to see people dying. Again, I'm not. This is stuff I usually don't pay attention to because I it makes me uneasy. I don't want to see people die over land boundaries and stuff that I'm not an expert on. That said, my dad, his second wife was Iranian, and he went to Iran during the Iran-Iraq war and helped her sister escape. He helped his wife's sister flee that country that was war stricken and come to the U.S. I'm hearing stories. I've heard stories, and obviously hearing more now on Venezuela, and it is tragic. It's while I don't want to see the U.S. enter wars, this is not a war. And I know maybe it's semantics, but the last war that the U.S. declared was World War II. I know there's a lot of different ways, whether it's authorizing military use or Monroe doctrines. Like, again, I'm not the expert. All I know is in my lifetime, every U.S. president has taken some form of military action. And I didn't claim to know the exact reason why. I'm certain that there was some sort of strategic motives in all those, just like there probably is here, just like they're now stating that there's going to be some oil and there's other strategy involved, not just the humanitarian efforts. I'm not naive to that. I also think that while I've seen every U.S. president take some form of military action, I don't remember ever seeing such vitriol or the response from either party regarding said action. I'm sure people weren't fans, and yeah, you saw, again, I've seen some movies and stuff after the fact, but it's not lost on me, the hypocrisy. And I'm not like, again, we're going to move right on real quickly and talk markets and the impacts that has on markets, and things are humming into 2026. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Things could go back the other direction. Markets could open here and we could see the Monday morning sell-off. I'm not opening my short today. I don't think the Monday morning sell-off is going to occur. It could, but the spidey senses, things really feels like we've shifted gears and went from, bear market sentiments to, even B-Check has flipped from bear to bull. Not that one person is an indication of what's happening in the market, but those guys have had a pretty good pulse in the market. Fear and greed is back up to 42. It was as low as 6, I think. No, it was single digit in November. It has been climbing since. Let me just flip over the chart here so I can show for those that are watching the video. And here we go. So 42, it's climbing. Sentiment's coming back, not just crypto. I would say across the board, it seems. And I guess maybe you could say TradFi, precious, gold, silver, etc., have been humming. It really feels like there's feelings. Vibes. I'm not, don't trade on this. It's just how I feel. And I'm not, while I do like to trade on information, at the same time, sometimes it's just a gut feel, and feels like bottoms are in across the board. I'm on memes, on majors. We'll get into a market update here in a second, but feels like things have shifted. There's still a lot of uncertainty. It's not just what's happening in Venezuela. It's Iran. It's apparently some sort of stuff's going on in the UK. Like, I don't know what's going on in the world. It just seems like there's definitely still uncertainty. Markets typically don't like uncertainty. If things shake out somewhat smooth, if uncertainty becomes certain, even if it is ongoing conflicts. Not good. I hope we don't see that. I'm not naive enough to think that, oh, everything's, rainbows and fairy tales now that an evil dictator tyrant has been removed from power. It's just not that easy. He still has his number two, who some people believe he's actually the guy who's calling the shots behind the scenes, and Maduro is just the puppet. I don't know. Again, I don't know. This is not my expertise. All I know is this sort of stuff has happened with every administration my entire life. Is it different? Yes. It's always happened. And as it specifically relates to Venezuela, this is where I get this will be the end of my emotional rant. And not only am I anti-war, I'm anti-politics. I'm apolitical. I did not vote in the past. I've never voted in a presidential election my entire life. Some people are like, oh, what the hell even commenting this? It's not my thing. I'd rather focus on things I can control, things that impact me in my personal life. This one happens to impact my personal life, impact people that I'm very close to, becoming close to, and therefore I think more about it. I'm actually can talk to someone who's impacted by it directly, and it makes me a little sad that you have people taking such hard stances. And like, I'm just going to use one example because it's easy. I've seen it in my timeline as far as like hypocrisy, and I share this comes from both sides. I'm sure both sides like this. It's also why I avoid politics, because it's often you see rampant hypocrisy from the left and from the right. And Venezuela isn't new. It's not that the dictator just popped up. This isn't even the first one. There was one prior to this one, and this current one that just got removed wasn't the president. Lost the last election, and just chose not to relinquish power. So he's not the legal acknowledged president of Venezuela. He's the head of a cartel. He's the head of a narco-terrorism organization. Like this is I'm not making this stuff up. This is what it is. And you saw people on both sides saying this guy should be removed and should not be in charge. And then that happened, and now you see those same people saying this was awful, this was horrible, how could you do this? Again, would it be better if I could have just negotiated and he just stepped down without any action? Yeah, sure. We also live in reality. Like that didn't happen. That wasn't happening. And words and negotiations rarely get tyrant dictators just to say, okay, you know what? You guys are right. I'm going to give up all this power, all this oil and cloud I have in the world. Like, what do we think Russia, China, and Cuba were doing there? Like, this isn't a there's sometimes like the lesser of two evils is better. And all I know is unanimously 100% of the Venezuelans who aren't part of the cartel or employed by the current government they have hope for the first time in the last 25, 26 years. That's a good thing. It's a win for humanity. Are they out of the woods yet? No, things could get crazy, but there is hope. There's optimism. I'm an optimist by nature. And so I'm going to be hopeful that the best case scenario outcomes. Is that likely? Maybe not, probably not. But there is a range of in the range of outcomes is that there is a smooth transition. And this Venezuelan economy, which was at one point was one of the greatest in the world, had incredible culture. It's my brother was there in the early 2000s for a couple of weeks, and it changed it had a lifelong impact on his life, from the culture he experienced, the food he had, and the people he interacted with. Everyone I've interacted with and it's relatively recent. We've been dating for a few months. She's one of the kindest people, most optimistic people I've ever met. And as are all her friends and family. And to have that sort of personality, having went through what they've went through, to still be living that life with their loved ones at home, it says something about the people. I'm rooting for the people. I'm not rooting for any military. I would root for the U.S. military if it had to. I'm not rooting for them to go take more action, but I'm hopeful that the people win here, the people of Venezuela, and they aren't dumb. Again, they're aware that this isn't just a pure humanitarian effort. They're aware that there's oil motives involved. Again, I repeat, what do you think Russia, China, and Cuba interest in it? I love the arepas. I'm certain that they weren't there for the arepa recipe. Like it's they'd much prefer to be working with the US than working with Cuba, China, and Russia. This isn't my opinion. This is coming from people who lived in Venezuela, people who grew up in Venezuela, and I'm happy for them that they have hope that for potential real change for the first time in 27 years. That's a big positive. It's a big win. I know we're getting an extended quote open here, but it is relevant to the market, and we will move on. I mentioned I'm going to share one piece of hypocrisy. I don't. It's not even like. It's not that we need to discuss it because I don't want to go down some back and forth rant on actions and how you should do this properly. Again, I'm not qualified to speak on that. What I'm qualified to speak on is the people in my personal life who are qualified to speak on the situation there and how it's impacted their life and the things I see on the timeline. And the hypocrisy is wild, and it's disappointing because I can't help but think it's not result oriented. Rather, it's because of who is the current president of the US. I don't care if you like Trump or you hate Trump or you could get you're indifferent. I'm probably indifferent. There's a lot of things that he does I think is crazy and I strongly dislike, I strongly disagree with. There's also some things he does well, and it's like it's good for this country. Depending on how the next few weeks, months play out, this could be very good for this country. This could be very good for Venezuelans. It could be very good for humanity. Hard stop. It could be very good for potentially making evil tyrant dictators think twice before they take some harmful action that kills their own civilians, or they try to overthrow a legal government, a democracy. I think there is a lot of good that could come out of this. I also understand things could get worse. This could escalate. That would be very bad. I hope that's not the case. The hypocrisy, though, is it's sad. It makes me sad. I said yesterday, like I miss when America would come together, when positive things for humanity happened, when our country did something good. I think this is a net good. Could have been done differently. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is many people, including the last president, wanted Maduro out of power. Biden put a $25 million bounty on his head. They just didn't take any action. Maybe that's the right way. Just wait forever and just let's hope and pray that a dictator resigns or someone turns him in. The specific example is Morgan Freeman. I love him as an actor, but recently, as early as 2024, talking about he must step down. We can't let this continue. The world cannot stand by and let Maduro steal the election in Venezuela. The revolution continues. Maduro did not win. This is 2 years ago, summer of 24. Not recently. Like ranting about this guy. He's evil. He didn't win the election. He like it's not even debated. Like he stole the election. And now he's calling Trump a war criminal, and this is the worst thing that has ever happened. I just, again, I don't get it. I don't. It's hard for me to understand, and I'm excited for. Do I want to see bloodshed and more military conflict? Absolutely not. But I do care about the people of Venezuela, and I'm excited for them, and hope that this next few weeks and months transpire smoothly. I see a few hands. We will get in them. I do want to limit the discussion because none of us are geopolitical experts, to my knowledge, and I don't want that to take up the entire morning of the show. But I did get a little bit of back and forth on the timeline, and as always, I would be remiss if I'm not trying to duck anything. I'm authentic. It's how I feel, and I'm not going to act differently because I host a show that talks about market commentary and products and builders. Like we're going to talk about all that. This plays into at least the market part of that, and it also does impact me personally, indirectly. Go ahead, Joey, get in here, and then we will keep things moving. GM. Hope the holidays treat you well. Correct.
that was like 7 years or 8 years into Chavez's reign. So it was starting to get really bad. At that point, like he was starting to take over some of the bigger companies. Like Polar is the largest beverage, they're a beer company, and they're like the largest, they were the largest distributor in Venezuela. And at the time, my wife's brother-in-law was an executive there. And, Chavez taken over the company, just decided it became like no longer belonged to the owners. It now belonged to the country of Venezuela and had taken it over. Her family would come visit, and Chavez wanted so much control over the money that they were only allowed to take $500 with them when they traveled to America, because he didn't want to let any of the money out of his country. So I saw them at one point swipe their card to pay for something and it get declined because they reached their spending limit internationally. So this has been going on for a long time in that country. And I'm not a geopolitical expert either. I have no idea what this means for oil, for minerals, for natural resources, for any of that stuff. But as someone who was married to a Venezuelan, who went to Venezuela, who lives in South Florida, where there are, I don't even know how many, probably millions of Venezuelans living now.
It's about 5% of Miami-Dade.
Is it?
It's
yeah.
So I mean,
that's a huge number.
Less than a million legally in the U.S., but registered voters is about 5% of Miami-Dade.
Yeah. And then not to mention, I have a lot in South Florida. You've got a lot of Colombians. You got a lot of other South Americans that it's interesting because I saw so many of my friends that are not Venezuelan, but they are from South America or Latin America, celebrating with them, because it's like almost been like their struggle as well, because their friends and their family, like you said, their friends, or they met people that immigrated out and got out and things like that. So it's just, I think it's a big, I'm not going to talk about the other stuff, but for humanity purposes, I think it's a big win to see people that have been oppressed for 26 years. Some of them, again, some of these kids, that are 18 to 25, don't know anything else, don't know what it's like to have any sort of freedoms, now have the opportunity to go in the streets and celebrate and dance, where before, if they did that, they might have gotten shot and killed.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No, I agree. It's good for humanity. How we got there the right way? I don't know. Is it over yet? No. Is it going to be easy? Probably not. It's a better world if these people aren't oppressed and living under the reign of terror that they've been living under for decades. I've close friends from Cuba. Someone who worked with me very closely. We grew up in the phone repair business. Was a regional worked on my team while owning his own locations. And no, I did not realize that's not the actor Morgan Freeman. So it wasn't even Morgan Freeman. Never mind. Disregard all that. But it wasn't the only account that I've seen. But there's many examples of the hypocrisy of this guy's awful, he's horrible, he needs to be removed from power. And then once he's removed from power, because the people in charge of removing power they don't like, they flip completely, and this is the worst thing ever to happen. Like, both things can be true. You don't have to like the way it happened. You hope it doesn't escalate, and yet still be happy for the people that have hope for the first time in some of the times in their entire lives. My buddy from Cuba has changed his profile picture to it's a picture of the Venezuelan flag and liberty or something. And again, the Cubans are optimistic and hopeful that this might lead to change in their own country. It's just, to me, it feels good that friends of mine are hopeful and optimistic for their lives, their families, for the first time in decades. And I'm not going to let geopolitical stuff that I'm not going to claim to understand damper that. I'm being hopeful that things play out well and everyone, the optimism continues. I'm also not naive enough to think it's out of the woods yet. Things could get worse. And I hope that's not the case. But as far as being happy for my friends, not going to be able to change that because of who the current administration is. That said, sorry for taking shots at the actor Morgan Freeman. I'm kind of glad it's not. I'll go watch Pulp Fiction this weekend just to make up for that bad take. But in all seriousness, the market has, I mean, it didn't like sin, but it is, man, things are seemingly starting off very well to kick off 2026. Even on the second, we saw massive inflows, like 174 million of net inflows for the the ETH ETFs. I think it was close to 500 million of net inflows for the Bitcoin ETF. Poppy, I see your hand up as well. Go ahead and get in here, and then I will do a full market update. And if you can hang out, I do want to talk. One of my before we get too far ahead of ourselves, are three major topics I want to hit on this morning. Majors and memes both running. We touched on the macro and what this geopolitical uncertainty means for these markets, what it might mean for these markets. Again, I'm not an oil expert to tell you what it means for those markets, but it's certainly going to have some downstream effects that I know or believe. And the last nugget is, are NFTs back? Because holy moly, the charts are green. We will do a full proper market interview, but one thing I want to hit on was the big Cowboy Punk sale, and then Gary Vee back on the streets, including picking up a couple quirkies yesterday. So we'll get Poppy's opinion on that. But before we go there, Poppy, do you want to get on this earlier conversation, and then we'll move into a proper?
Yeah, I will keep it extremely brief. I just wanted to say, number one, I also fell into seeing that tweet and thinking it was Morgan Freeman. So I just wanted to let you know you were probably one of thousands. Or at least we were.
In my defense, it is Morgan Freeman, just not the actor Morgan Freeman. But at least someone who LARPs as a Morgan Freeman account on X. So we are accurate, just not the Morgan Freeman I was thinking of.
So basically, we could read, and that's good. But yeah, I thought it was him too. Anyway, I would just the only thing that I was going to say, I lived in Miami for a very long time. My wife grew up in Doral, which is basically little Venezuela. And when I moved to the West Coast, we needed some stuff done around the house, and I used one of those apps. I think Handy or one of them, and a guy showed up, and it's crazy. 5 years later, he's like a part of our family. He comes to family functions. He brings my son, gifts and things for Christmas. I mean, he's a very good friend of ours, and he's from Venezuela. And I never really, knew his story till a couple years ago. Him and I just sat down, and his mom, his dad, his grandma, and I think his sister and a few others, literally caravan from Venezuela through Mexico, and snuck across the border. And I know not everybody's a huge fan of that or whatever, but it's not the point of this. It's just I've heard the horror stories, and yesterday he was texting us tears of joy, and I think it's a good thing. Obviously, the politics aside, I think people just need to be careful when they jump to conclusions one way or the other, because there's always two sides to every story. And I just wanted to double tap on that, because I do have Venezuelan friends and people that were oppressed and put everything on the line to get away from that, which is crazy if you really think about, like, basically walking and running through streets, woods, mountains with your grandma and your entire family. Like, I put myself in his shoes, bro, and it's not a good feeling. So anyway, I just wanted to double tap that. We can move on, but I just wanted to share that part because it did hit close to home, knowing people that were affected by that.
Yeah, no, appreciate you sharing. And again, everyone's free to their own opinions. And again, I know it's not simple. I know it's not cut and dry. And I think that's the other thing, is there's some people that are making it cut and dry on both sides. People are like, oh, this is the greatest thing. No, it's not. It's not over yet. It's like a lot has to happen. And I don't believe it was a pure humanitarian effort, just like I don't think any of the military action that's ever been taken in the history of the world is probably purely humanitarian. There's likely some form of strategic initiatives in each and every one of them, and sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. And I'm rooting for this to go well, and I think everyone should be rooting for it to go well and smooth. You don't have to like how we got here. It's taken place. It did happen, and now I think the next few weeks, hopefully, everyone can agree that a smooth transition and less conflict in one less dictator in the world is a net positive. And with that, let's take a look at these markets, because I, for the first time in a long time, put a WETH bid in on an NFT collection. I will hit on which one shortly. I'm not going to keep you hanging all day, but not something I've done for a while. And I do feel that things are maybe back, like really back, in sense of, will we have pullbacks? Sure. Let's start with NFTs and we'll take a look at tokens. I mentioned the big CryptoPunk sale, nearly $500,000 for a Cowboy Punk. They're up slightly on the day. Pudgy Penguins up 9.2%, back up over 5. Bored Apes up 14.9%, up over 5 as well, 5.32. Moonbirds back to 2 ETH, up 11% of the day. Hypers back to 500 Hype, up 5% of the day. Little Pudgies up 13%, 0.55. Milady's up another 2.9% to 1.17. Mutants up 12% of the day to 0.71. Azuki up 18% to 0.78. Infinex patrons, the anomaly here, it's down to 21% to 0.87. That's directly tied. These Infinex patrons are really, it's a proxy for the token, the Infinex token. Infinex has an ICO currently open, sales currently open, and it's not going well. We are going to dive into that a little deeper, as well as another ICO to go live this week. But early, it's a price at a $99 million FTV, which sounds reasonable for that. It's a 1-year lockup, I think, turned a lot of people off. And anyways, just a slow start for their ICO in terms of funds raised. And I said it in the war room yesterday, it's going to have a negative impact on the NFTs. Sure enough, they're down 21% as repricing occurs, essentially. Good Vibes Club up 1% on the day to 0.53. V1 Punk's flat. I've said there's an NFT a PFP that I really want to, that I don't own, that I want to throw in a vault and forget about. I'm not going to say which one yet, but there may be a reason I'm pausing there. Wins of Yaranawa by Rafiq. I'm down bad because this is another one, not a PFP, but one that I did want. I think I missed the bottom. It was down in the ones, like 1.5, 1.8 maybe bottom, and it ripped up 27% of the day to 3.15. Doodles up 1% to 0.44. Mythics up 9% to 0.25. VFriends 1.3. Grifters up 5% to 13.69. Chimpers, big day, up 12% to 0.56. Quirkies down a little bit, but holding strong at 0.58. Codas up 19% to 0.6. MFers up 20% to 0.3. Nakami goes flat. Squiggles down 3% to 3.1. The list goes on and on. Dick Butts flat. Oddities up 9%. The fact that we even have this much movement, double digit, mostly positive, Azuki Elementals up 27% is exciting. Even Cool Cat's got a pump. Terraforms, haven't thought about that for a minute, up 14% to 0.27. Meebits up 1% to 0.44. The Kennel Club even got almost 20% pump, up 17% to 0.15. Mooncats up 28% to 0.17. It's exciting to see so much, Pudgy Rods, Creeps, Other Deeds, all up. And again, it could bounce back the other way tomorrow, but it just feels like we might have actually bottom might be in. Maybe not. I don't know anything, but if the market opens well today and it feels like there is some certainty in terms of what the next month / quarter, maybe year holds, I think we could be in for. I think we might see the pull through of all the positive tailwinds that we've had and the regulatory stuff, and just there's so much positive going for this space that we just really feels like we have, at least on the alts and the NFTs, haven't had a proper bull market yet. And outside of meme coin mania, hopeful that we might see a fun 2026. I'm going to go to another token page here just because I don't know all these I don't know what to call them, non-major memes, but the memes are up big as well. Pepe is up huge. Bonk is up huge. Let me go. Here we go. Well, I lied on the week. A little bit of pullback on the 24, but that Pepe down 2% of the day, but it's up like 65% of the week. So slight pullback on some of the memes. Runes though up. Bitcoin up 2% to 92,851. ETH up 1% to 3,100. XRP up 1%. Doge down 4%. Cardano down 1%. Really, NFTs took still the 24-hour clock or the 24-hour session, but things seems to be heating up. As I mentioned, who knows how the market responds today here in 45 minutes following all the weekend activity. If it responds well, it could be a very fun week. Like I said, I don't know. All I know is I'm not opening a short today at market open. Joey, go ahead.
Is this, prior to the holiday, we talked about like, NFTs and trends and blah, 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 and cycles and whatever. And I had mentioned that how, at the end of the year, we always kind of see this like tax loss harvest and then a pump in January. And we weren't sure if that was something that was going to happen again. I mean, is this what, like the normal kind of, do we think this is that normal kind of, hey, end of 2025, let me sell some stuff that's down so I can tax loss harvest, and now I'll get back into it in January with a lower cost basis kind of situation like we've seen in the past? Does anyone think that this is maybe what we're seeing? Because what else kind of catalyst is there for all these things to be up?
I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I completely got distracted. Like, find you a host that can show up for 1,067 days in a row and then mistake the real Morgan Freeman for a fake Morgan Freeman and then follow the correction with mistaking Morgan Freeman for Samuel L. Jackson. Morgan.
The war room is tearing you up right now, sir. Tearing you up.
I'm literally sweating right now. Zane. I mean, I don't even know what I can comment here to not get myself in more trouble today. Can I just say this entire thing was a bit? Someone's going to tune in today about a really, really serious, deep conversation about Venezuela, and they want to weigh in their really serious opinion on either side of it. And I'm going to be mistaking Morgan Freeman for the fake Morgan Freeman for Samuel L. Jackson. Maybe my favorite moment in all time of Captain.
Morgan Freeman, Pulp Fiction.
Zane asks, I loved Morgan Freeman in Rush Hour. Mayhem says, yeah, it was really good in Bad Boys. When they found out white men couldn't jump, crazy. You're welcome to pick on me. If I'm going to,
I wasn't going to say anything on air. When you said that, I was just going to let it slide and hope nobody else noticed. And then the war room just went in on you.
If I make those sort of mistakes, you should pick on me. Like, it's not fair for me to make could you imagine, I know it's extremely unlikely, but could you imagine somehow the real Morgan Freeman pops into this show and hears me go on this rant? This idiotic crypto bro talking about geopolitical stuff he has no business on. He can't even he's confusing me for the fake Morgan Freeman and thinks I started in Pulp Fiction. I promise I've watched the show. I told you I'm not an expert, and this is why I stick talking mostly to crypto, meme coins and NFTs and RWAs and that sort of stuff. We'll stick with technology more so than my feelings on the world at large. Proof Alpha Degen, welcome to the stage, GM, sir.
GM, I can almost hit the mute button because I'm laughing so hard. Man, what just happened? That developed pretty fast. Oh my God, Cap. Oh man, gotta love it, man. This is why I show up here every day, man. If you're not a morning person and you don't get a kick out of being here in the morning, you just not alive. Pinch yourself. Thanks for letting me up. I just wanted to come up here and say what just happened.
I feel like now, you know how I mispronounce people's names like often, like, and once I get the wrong pronunciation in my head, it's even more difficult for me. Like Rita and Rita, I still to this day don't know which is proper. Now, I kid you not, the rest of my life, I'm going to question myself every time I think of, like, hell, not even joking, swear on my daughter's life. He says, you're going to have to watch Shawshank now. My brain goes, okay, was that Samuel L. Jackson or Morgan Freeman? I'm near certain it was Morgan Freeman, but I'm doubting myself now. Like, I'm actively doubting my own brain because I messed that up so bad. I love Pulp Fiction, great movie. I know it's Samuel L. Jackson. Why I tied that to Morgan Freeman, I truly don't know. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, if you've never seen Shawshank, you should watch it. Great. I do know where this is from. Pain. I was joking. I was trolling this weekend, and I don't troll often. And this is what I get for trolling. I made a comment. There's a, I don't even know how to say the guy's name, another actor. He also famously starred as Jim in The Office, but he also has been Jack Ryan in the Tom Clancy adapted series for, I guess it was like Amazon Prime series. Good show. And I've seen the Jack Ryans, was a fan, was good. I'm very well aware that's not Jim from The Office. I'm aware it's not an Office scene, but I was joking this weekend, and I said in the war room, I dropped a clip from that was floating online. I said, yeah, this is, this whole situation in Venezuela, that scene from The Office describes it perfect. Where Jim from The Office, I knew it was a Jack Ryan clip, but I was just trolling, which I rarely do. Now connecting the dots in hindsight, that's exactly why my brain confused Morgan Freeman for the fake Morgan Freeman for Samuel L. Jackson this morning. I promise I was joking about the clip. I've read all this. I don't have time today to get into Cap spent 30 days in lockup, but that's a story for another day. For those of you who haven't heard my time at Jackson Pike, or in Jackson Pike, in Franklin County. But when I was there, I read almost every single Tom Clancy book cover to cover. So I'm well and familiar with Tom Clancy, familiar with Jack Ryan. Just thought it was funny, and it came back to bite me. Just like I also said that I don't think China, Russia, or Cuba interest in Venezuela was for the rest of the rapist recipe. After I said that, then some guy, actual Venezuelan, goes viral for basically, I mean, it was more authentic because it was him, but in less words or more words, but better put, said pretty much the same thing. And it was one of the viral videos this weekend. So anyways, I digress. We're way off the rails this morning. Back to all things markets, and particularly we're gonna hard pivot back into NFTs and some of the excitement. Don't go anywhere though, because we are going to talk about the ICOs, particularly that Infinex one. There's another one goes live tomorrow or Wednesday. You're probably not going to miss. There's also, speaking of NFTs, we're going to leave you a little bit of a cliffhanger here because you've got a deadline at 10 o'clock. So around 9:30, we'll make sure we get into that one. And talking about these majors, talking about macro, kind of zooming out, crypto's mainstream, and it's happening. Like, it's happening. Bank of America officially recommended their clients should be investing 4% of their portfolio in Bitcoin and crypto. Walmart is now announced they are accepting Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto for its 1 billion customers. Blue Origins, Bezos, again, another name, one of the richest guys in the world. You would think by now I would just properly learn how to pronounce his name. I don't care. It's better that I just don't know and could just say Bezos every time. And I know that it's going to irk someone. Someone's rolling their eyes, and I do, like, that makes me smile. The fact that my mispronunciation can upset someone. But yeah, Blue Origin accepting Ethereum for space flights. Like, it's going mainstream. And I guess the big question is, I'm confident crypto is having its moment. I think it's very bullish for real ICOs that have something more than just a token. I think it's very bullish for majors. I think it's bullish for stablecoins. I think it's bullish for on-chain adoption. It's bullish for RWAs. I don't know if and when it benefits NFTs. In the case of collectible NFTs, digital art, and in particular PFPs, That's what I don't know, but it does feel like at least the bottom for those of us here, the capitulation stopped, and it feels like the collectors that remain are wanting to get what they want to collect. They want to get in before we potentially have a roaring takeoff. But that said, let's hit on this NFT topic. I'm going to change the headline real quick. I'm going to post a clip from Loki's show yesterday where Gary popped on. And Poppy, if you don't mind me to hand it to you, I know you were on that. I've not listened to the whole space yet. I wasn't able to make it yesterday. I did catch the clip from Gary. I saw Gary's picked up, I think picked up some Chimpers, some Good Vibes Club, some Quirkies. And, it's got to feel good. Those are a few Quirkies that are probably never going to hit the market again, if I were to guess, at least not in Gary's lifetime. But Poppy, can you TLDR us the space from yesterday and what, not just Gary, but, what the overall sentiment was on NFTs during Loki's show?
Yeah, absolutely. And good morning, everybody. Look, so Loki's show is great every Sunday. I look forward to it. I think a lot of us do. And yesterday it was cool because Loki opened the show, and the sentiment was pretty solid overall coming out the gate. But actually, I think it was the earliest topic of the show was Gary V on the timeline, and how Gary was, talking about V friends, and was communicating with holders, and just he had one tweet that really blew up, and he was interacting with people, and it was really good to see. And Loki was basically saying how some people, like in crypto Twitter, give Gary a lot of slack, and how people haven't seen him in a while, and he was just asking opinion on it. And I jumped in and shared how I've known Gary for quite some time, and I actually saw him speak in 2013 at an event, and have followed him ever since. And Gary was a big reason why I got into NFTs. And then I just shared my opinion that I hope, I was opinion and a hope that Gary will be consistent going forward, and just be more involved on a day-to-day basis with the broader space. Not that he needs to go out and buy anything or whatever, but just I think Gary being around is good for NFTs. He's a credible source. He's known by millions around the world, and he's super passionate about NFTs, so it's not fake, it's genuine. And then Jeremy jumps up, and Jeremy was giving some great insight. We were talking V friends, and then all of a sudden Gary emerges from the from this. He probably it was like him descending from the ceiling. But he came in, and he actually talked for, I don't know, quite some time, 10-15 minutes, and shared a lot of his passion and vision, and a lot of conviction for not just V friends but for the space. And he was super real too. He was like, look, I made a viral post in 2021 saying 99% of the NFT projects would die, and that wasn't the most well received post, but this is where we are. And he was giving a lot of praise to punks. He basically just said, look, punks are it. They're the only project that doesn't have to do anything. It runs off history, which is, I think, widely believed, and I also believe is true. And he said, and he was just saying, like, the future of NFTs, in his opinion, and what he wants to see more of, and I think what everybody wants to see more of, is storytelling, character development, and actually creating the broader ecosystem of the IP versus everything just being one dimensional and about money and stuff like that. So it was a really good conversation, and there were some good questions asked. And I just honestly took the opportunity to say thank you, and what he was talking about, comics and collectibles, which are things that we're working on for Quirkies. We've been before the acquisition, and now even harder. We have a great comic an IP Connect, very good friend of mine. We have a few other things that we're working on that he spoke on. And so I just, gave him some gratitude, and he showed Corky's a lot of love, which I'm very grateful for. And actually, we were DMing back and forth pretty much all day till midnight. He jumped on our spaces last night and was just having fun. He jumped in the Good Vibes Club Discord yesterday, was interacting with a bunch of people in there. I think 6 or 7 Quirkies holders got VFriend ones yesterday. A bunch of GVC guys got them. It was a really cool day because, obviously Gary bought some NFTs and bought some Quirkies. I'm super grateful. He bought, I think, some Chimpers and GVC as well. Well, I know he bought GVCs. I think he bought a couple Chimpers. But it was more than, I think it was more than that. For a lot of people in our chats and conversations and even on spaces, reflecting after he left and in our Quirky stuff. I think, just to summarize, when Gary's always, I think, excited about digital collectibles. He loves collecting. It's who he is. But when he is helping lead and guide this space, it is better. I think he is one of the founding fathers of these digital collectibles we call NFTs, and he did help onboard a lot of people, including me, whether it was directly or indirectly. So overall, that's the summary. It was a great day. I would have considered it a great day whether he interacted with our project or not. But that was honestly, for me, one of the best days in my 4-year Web3 journey. Because again, I've read his book. He inspired me, and it was cool to build a personal relationship. He was asking genuine questions, wanted to know where I'm from, what I'm about. So it was a really cool day, and I got a VFriend. So I'm back. I had a VFriend a few times, but yeah. Anyway, it was really good, Cap.
Any mention or questions? Might we get a VCon in 2026? I know I expect one at some point in the future. I know last year wasn't going to be it, but any rumors if we might see one this year?
Well, it's something that I'm really looking forward to. So I was digging around last night as well, but I don't know. Jeremy's here, so maybe he knows.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's pretty tight-lipped on things that haven't been announced. But if you'd like to drop any alpha, you're more than welcome. Stage is yours, buddy. I will say this: I think, it's fun. It is fun in the space when you have people like Gary that they're buying NFTs. He's not going to sell them. Popping into a Discord, getting some people excited again. That it does. The space needs more than that to thrive, but it does help. And I think more so, I'm a little biased, but it's not like I have big bags and Chimpers, Good Vibes Club, or even Quirkies. I do hold a Quirky that's vaulted and will never hit the market. But good to see Gary not just buying an NFT because he thinks it might pump. As he did say, 99% of these things are going to go to zero, and was proven right. Now it seems to be these are the ones that survive. These are the ones that, not that he's saying they're not going to zero, but supporting builders who are still here and doing things, and that I absolutely do love to see.
One of his big comments that really stood out to me, that is a cool perspective, is he said he was just making the point that you have to bet on the jockey, and that was his big, one of the better clips there was bet on the jockey, bet on the leader, bet on the team, because most of these are not going to make it from an NFT perspective. And, betting on the person is his conviction play, which made me feel great because there was a direct compliment to myself, to Good Vibes, to Chimpers teams. And so, yeah, and I do agree with that, right? Because we've seen really good art, really good projects, but without the passion and the heart behind it, the human interaction, the community, a real vision and a driving force, I don't think it's anything more than just art on chain. I think what brings that art on chain to life is all the human interaction and direction that falls underneath it and rises it up. So I do agree with that. And you can see it, right? Spencer grabs Moonbirds, they come back to life. Luca grabs Pudgy, they come back to life. I grab Corkies, we bring them up a notch and put gas on the fire, you know? So I think it's a prime example. Even as you've seen Yuga shuffle around and shift priorities, certain things get that life, get that attention in this space. It is a difference maker, right? So it was good, and I think he had really good takes. He was careful not to overhype things, even in the DMs. Like, you know, it was pretty important. And I was careful about even how I posted about it and stuff. So it's good. I think this is the right way to do it as we go forward. Not shoot ourselves in the foot again, but actually build it the right way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Very good take. And I saw we had a wild Jeremy pop up on stage and we lost him. Jeremy, if you do want to join the combo, throw another request. Love to get your not going to put you on any spot. I did hear the alpha from Katie, who's pretty dialed in. Says no. The rumor is no VCon 2026. Understood. There is also another somewhat major conference, pretty major conference. I was fortunate to attend last year. Really enjoyed it, actually. It just got canceled. We're gonna talk about that more in detail tomorrow with Outer Lumen. She actually texted me. I would like to discuss this tomorrow. She's got some thoughts. So I'm going to hold the deeper conversation. I'm going to share the deeper hold for the deeper conversation regarding that specifically. But yeah, it did another NFT conference did just announce they're not going to have their conference this year. It's not the one I said I hope would cancel. The NFT NYC, it should not be a thing this year or ever again under its prior forms. No offense to anyone that works on that team, just it's not a good conference, and I don't think it helps the space at all. Would rather not see side events and things go on there. There's a lot of other flagpole events, I think, that the crypto community at large could coalesce around and have a bigger impact than NFT NYC. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow. I saw Jeremy jumped up. Jeremy, you're welcome to share alpha. No
hey,
pressure,
Jim Cap.
no pressure obligations. But yeah, what and then once you're done, Simple Farmer, I saw you flew up. I don't see a hand yet, but I'm gonna step away, refill my drink here, and I'll be right back. So if Jeremy wraps up and you don't see my you don't hear my voice or video, feel free to jump right in afterwards. Jeremy, GM, appreciate you jumping up. And yeah, what's all the VFriends / VCon alpha, sir?
GM, I'll drop every bit of alpha while you step away from the microphone. No, the only alpha that I drop now is the nitty gritty details, making sure people have the best information that's out there. And I also don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I do feel that the VFriends community and the wider NFT community, for that matter, and I kind of appreciate you reminding me of that, is looking forward to the next VCon, and it needs to come into the conversation. But I don't know what the outlook is for 2026. But there will for sure be another one. I think we didn't do one in 2025, and that was pretty well known for the purpose of building out the character lore. And I think the community can see very direct impact that just like not having to have the team split focus building this massive conference allowed us to like develop the comic book program, start to tell the origin stories, do more trade show events, because we're still doing tons of events. We're just not hosting them outside of our trading card games and a couple one-offs here and there. But I just wanted to pop up and join the conversation. It was a fun day yesterday. I'm glad that the timeline got a dose of Gary's energy, because I get it all the time, in private and meetings and planning and strategy. But obviously, yeah, I don't know why that video that he posted happened to do as well as it did, but I'm glad, because my DMs are on fire with people who are really genuinely looking at VFriends and passionate about this community, this wider community. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of fruitful collaborations and conversations that come out of it. So I'm excited.
So Poppy said something in passing there about like more than just digital art. And I think especially when it comes to, let's segment PFPs for a second. Can they be art on chain? Can they just be, as Gary's used, the rookie card? Sure. I think for this current supply, really probably for most of them, and the people here, anytime in the short term, like fast forward a decade, might the rookie cards and provenance and the early ones matter? Yes. NFT technology is not going anywhere. I do believe for the category, in this case, PFP NFTs, to have another moment where people who aren't here want to come in and buy these things in the short term before any of the brands fast forward 2 decades and Pudgy Penguin is still a going concern. You're still seeing gifts and toys. Like, it's hard not to see a world where those OG PFPs aren't more valuable than they are today. Same thing with apes, same thing with VFriends, et cetera, et cetera. Gary's on record saying this is his, this is his life project. He's going to keep building and working towards it till he dies. Therefore, you fast forward a couple decades, and yeah, I absolutely could see these assets appreciating. That said, in the short term, in the year 2026, whether it's what's going to excite people here or even more so get new people to join, I do think utility matters. I do think, I'm not saying that all NFTs need to have utility. They shouldn't. I do think utility matters. I think Gary was probably ahead of it a little bit when he did the 3 years of utility, in that case, the conferences. That said, I also think I saw, correct me if I'm wrong here, and not that there's promises of utility, but I think I saw recently, what was it, the codas that received some new utility that was maybe not like part of a roadmap or announced it, but feeling me, am I correct in what I'm thinking here about like the codas within the VFriend OG collection received some sort of perks, they got a briefcase or something? Did I catch that or no?
Oh, you threw me off for a second because your bassy brain said coda, but in our world,
koala.
It's a koala.
Yes.
And so took me a second there.
Morgan Freeman.
The Koala 2025 was a special token in the book games launch. So everybody who bought books got a book game. There was a very rare one that you could get, and like so many NFTs, also went on a very manic run. And the name was Koala 2025. It dropped in 2022, January 22. So everybody was very much anticipating, what the hell does this thing do? And we rolled that out, and it's actually going to be our first RWA, like proper RWA NFT, represents the physical item. It's a collector's briefcase with limited stuff that's only created for that drop, and a chase inside where 8 out of the 499 cases have a Series 1 Gary originally owned, which is overall has gotten like really positive feedback, partly because we did a 3-year rollout of it. Like they're gonna get that airdrop January 14th, and they can start redeeming their briefcases. Then they'll have another briefcase coming in 27 and another coming in 28. And I'm frankly, I think that VFriends needs to be a leader in the RWA space. Obviously, we have great relationships with Courtyard. I know the Dilly team. Like, there's been a lot of progress made in that sector, but VFriends hasn't really gone in head first. So I'm interested to see where that develops. But to go back to kind of your conversation, first I want to say, like, VFriends isn't doing anything short term. So let's start there as a premise. Now, obviously you can't do nothing. Like, you need to strike when the iron's hot. You need to be thoughtful about the consequences of your actions today. But when we're thinking about, like, okay, what does the cadence of how we release the comic books and tell the origins of these stories mean today for our holders, we're also thinking about the impact of that over 5, 10, 15 years. And I've followed really closely, like, the conversations that you've had here. You've really hosted some great conversations at the end of the year around everything that's going on with NFT strategy and alignment between holders and companies. And I think it's super warranted. For VFriends, I would say, like, the collectible aspect is much more powerful than people realize. And maybe that's like a offside take, and it's going to take years for people to catch up. And it's one of those, like, you stake your reputation on it and you're either right or wrong. But the token itself is so valuable because of its programmability. Like we have a lot of one-of-one collectibles in VFriends that have been parts of different releases or special collaborations or whatever. But there's only 1,175 one-of-one Series 1 NFTs. And there are complementary cards, physical trading cards that have the same character and spectacular type. But if we wanted to do something special at a VCon, for example, for token holders, we can't activate around a physical card. And I'm obviously preaching to the choir here, but I think the program layer, the utility layer, if we want to call it that, is not, I don't view it as something that is always on. I view it as something that is always possible. And that's also why Gary was so excited to build on Ethereum, because he knew that regardless of where the market went, regardless of whether like Labubu was hot and blind boxes, or we're venturing into trading cards and collectibles, comics, VR, AR, wherever the market is, we can make VFriends relevant and drive value back to holders as we build the business through that programmable layer.
Yeah.
So that's how we think about it.
I love it. And I think when I say utility, I think that's it. It doesn't need to be always on utility. I think the holders, the supporters, the brand ambassadors, it's easier for them to tell the story if they're able to share real life examples of perks and utility they've received over time, and to know that there is going to be a focus there. It is going to be something. It also, like, it is fun to speculate. It's not fun to speculate to just pump up a price and then dump on someone's head, but it's fun for a community to give them things to talk about. I think of, like, I'm just going to lean into movies and stuff today. By the way, Coda, Koala, Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson, Tomato, they're all the same. If we're going to talk about, what's going to get the people here to move, what's going to start building momentum, always on is hard. That's not sustainable. But programming against the technology, I would like to see more of that. I'd like to see more experimenting. The tech has changed a lot since 21, 22. I'd like to see some of these legacy collections, these legacy NFT PFP brands, lean into what they can do with the tech, what can they program against. And there's some simple things that could run back. But like we talked about with Outer on here a couple Tuesdays ago, by the way, she'll be back with us tomorrow. I'll pin the reminder link for tomorrow up top here in a second. Would love you to hit that as we're going through the show today and rejoin us. We're here live every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And I'd say I'm not going to, mistake Morgan Freeman for the actor for a Trump hating Twitter personality, for another actor that starred in different movies every day. But I will probably make multiple mistakes every show, but I'll own them. So join us again tomorrow at 8. We'll dive a little deeper. But one of the things Outer did say recently, we were talking about like merch and stuff, and even something as simple as like programming against the NFTs for like trait specific things or custom merch. Like there's a lot that can be done that, to Jeremy's point, you simply can't do with a physical collectible. You can't do with a physical card or physical vinyl or physical merch if it doesn't have the technical component. Are there other ways that, could you just use an NFC chip and or email or register the serial number? Yeah, there's other ways to do it. Non-fungible token and the blockchain technology, I believe it's the best that we've seen to incorporate these two worlds and help these real world products do more. And I do think some of that is on these NFT PFP founders to push the envelope a little bit, do some experimenting, because I do believe we're at the forefront of that. We're at the bleeding edge of NFT tech. And you talk about RWAs and VFriends moving in that direction. It's like, it's easier for a NFT PFP native brand to experiment what they can do with NFT technology than it is for a Web2 giant, than it is to a new startup starting today. Like, have some fun. Not everything is going to be the next greatest thing, but we're never going to get there if we don't attempt to do stuff. So when I say I'd love to see more utility, it's not free magical internet money. It's not lifetime access of banger parties. Like some brands, it makes sense to have those get-togethers, those conferences, that sort of stuff, and it doesn't always have to be a cost center. It can be profit spinners if the brands are building properly and they have sponsors. Like, can be a profit center. It still takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to do it right. Jeremy, go ahead and get back in here, and then we'll go to Mosher.
Yeah, Kat, I couldn't agree more. And like, I want to say, on one hand, I'm very proud of how VFriends does this, and on the other hand, I'll be the first to say there's a lot more that we can do. But for us at VFriends, it's the outlier when there isn't a token benefit to something that we're doing. Um, you know, for example, one of our biggest releases, if not the biggest release of last year, was our partnership with Topps Chrome. And that was challenging for us because that's a Topps produced and distributed product. Like, that's a licensing situation. But we worked very hard with them to secure enough allocation to make sure that every Series 1 holder could get a box at wholesale, or not wholesale, at retail. And if you're familiar with these trading card drops, they tend to jump up from retail pretty quickly, at least a bit. And Chrome boxes happen to do really well. They went from $99 to around $700 a box. Now, that's only one box for each Series 1 NFT token. But for a lot of people, that was really meaningful. You know, that was $300, $400, $500 profit if they sold it, depending on when. But on a more like always on basis, it's not overshadowing the difference of the cost of their NFT. But like, every time we release a comic, Series 1 holders get 20% off and Series 2 holders get 8% off. It's not life-changing discounts, but it shows a commitment to how important the token ownership is in VFriends. And that's true across literally every single drop. Like, I'm sure there is an outlier, which is why I say it's the outlier when it doesn't happen. But and you know, that's a large part of my job as well, working with the community team and working with Andy and Gary to say, like, you know, how can we get more? We did a treasure, we called it the treasure chest. It's like a high-end gemstone pins and graded coin mystery box, which is like a high price item, you know. And all these new products that I say it's high price at $350 MSRP. When we do a product, whether it's more higher end like that, or like our super sticker box product, which is, you know, 12 packs, 100 characters to collect, that's coming next month, those packs are going to be like, I don't know, maybe $10, right? Like, there's different entry points for different people. And while we love for the holders to collect those, Gary's constantly on live shows saying, like, you don't need to buy this stuff. Like, we are making this stuff to create more touch points for people who don't know about VFriends. Because the other, like, really important piece of context in this conversation is the addressable market for whatever you want to call the sector, NFTs, PFPs, whatever, on-chain art, the addressable market is not here yet. Like 98% or more of the addressable market just isn't even interested in spending their money in this way. But they're used to buying physical collectibles. They're used to buying comics, maybe more so cards than comics, but we're really looking to like jump on that trend that we see growing over the next decade. And as people make touch points, have affinity towards specific characters within the VFriends ecosystem, they go down the funnel and say, okay, what are the best versions of this character? Okay, well, this character's got a coin. Oh, they've got cards. Oh, what are NFTs? Gary keeps mentioning that. What is that? Oh, they've made it easier than ever to buy an NFT on Rarible with a VFriends wallet, sign up with email in 3 clicks with Apple Pay. Yeah, I'm willing to spend $150, $200. We've had people buy $4,000 Series 1 NFTs just simply through that process of getting into Topps Chrome, and sometimes in weeks, sometimes 3-4 months, getting into NFTs. And I called it up because I've been playing around with Dune a lot, thanks to ChatGPT. And in the last 90 days, there's been 63 wallets brand new to Series 1 that bought 125 tokens. And there's been 313 new wallets that bought 572 Series 2 NFTs. Now, what I don't have is the flip side of that coin. How many people who, and I have it, I just haven't refined the query yet, but like, how many people who have been holding VFriends for 6 months or a year let theirs go? You know, I do think that the full picture is the net of that. But very clearly, like, we onboarded 367 unique wallets to VFriends NFTs in the last 90 days. And that's in a period of time where NFTs were pretty much down only. So I think we're aligned on a lot of that, and I hope that provides some good context about what we're doing.
It does very much. Appreciate you sharing. And the alignment matters. I was not like critical, but it was feedback I shared with like the recent Bored Ape Yacht Club merch drop was, yeah, exclusive items are cool. That's one thing. And that's, I guess that checks the boxes. There's some minimal, there's at least something different for holding the assets that you get. Oh, you have the right to buy this item that no one else gets. And I get that. I'm not downplaying exclusivity. That matters. If you want the member's jacket, you need to be a member. Cool. Makes sense. It also seems to me like very low hanging fruit when you're selling something that presumably has decent profit margins. If not, you need to find a new merch vendor. If you're not making money on your merch, find someone new or change the pricing. But the price that's sold, presumably knowing a little bit about that space, profit margins are decent. I know free shipping can be challenging at times when you're dealing with the international community. So I'm not saying give free shipping to all holders, but there's things you can do. The suggestions I threw out specific to that example was, instead of just selling all the socks for $15 or whatever, holders that make $100 purchase or more get a free pair. Or the same thing with the bag, that you saw at like Ape Fest, the reusable bag. And like, I get they're sitting on inventory, they want to sell it. Their cost if they're selling it for $20, their cost might be $5. If you give a free one to a holder that places a $100 order, you should still be making money on that order if you're priced properly, based on just basic retail margins, direct to consumer margins. I'm not knocking them. Please don't take this out of context. I'm not knocking Yuga. I'm not knocking Bored Ape or their new merch store. It's just an easy, fresh example, and one where, yeah, they gave some utility by the one exclusive item or a couple exclusive items. I don't think it would be much effort, and I think it would have driven more. It would just been good retail. I bought nothing so far from the merch store. I've got way too much merch already. Nothing was like, oh, I got to have this piece. Not even kidding, because I like discounts and deals. If it was, I like the socks, I wear the socks all the time. If it was holders who spend $100 or more get a free pair of socks, I'd already have a $100 order in. I'm spending $100 to get a free $15 pair of socks. They will be making money on my transaction. Maybe I'm the only person in the club that thinks like that. I doubt it. More so than my buying habits. It shows ongoing consistent alignment. Therefore, as a holder, you can hold that asset with confidence that your lifetime membership or holding this VFriend 1 for the next couple of decades, am I doing so with the bigger bet, thinking that it should appreciate over time if Gary keeps building? Yes, sure. It's a lot easier to get confidence, again, speaking for myself, in holding that asset when there's so many things to do with our capital in crypto. There's always something going on. There's always something that you can make your assets productive. Oftentimes at little to no risk. Stables, go farm your stable somewhere. That's 20% a year. That's going to appreciate pretty well for the next couple of decades. Like there's a lot going on. If I know there's going to be additional perks, additional utility, not every day, every month, every year, would like to be something at least once a year. I think probably once a quarter really gets that momentum going. Is like, oh, because you never know. For some people, I might tell the story about the free pair of socks I got. For others, it might be, oh, I got to go to this Ape Fest, or I got to go to this clubhouse. Like, you never know what utility, what perk is going to resonate with each of your holders. They're all different. There's few things you're going to do is going to make everyone happy. But I think anytime you have any activation, find a way to use the tech. Even if it doesn't mean anything that is free or costs you anything different, maybe it is just exclusive access. Maybe it is early access. It's just like, there's so many things you could do. Do something at minimum, because it signals we're aligned with our holders. Anything we do, we're going to make sure that we give our holders some extra perk, some extra value. That's part of the power of NFTs, in particular, PFP NFTs that were launched with some form of utility. I'm not saying VFriends owes that to their holders. They don't. They were very clear. The utility ends after 3 years. I'm saying it's part of what makes NFTs better than their physical counterparts. Why would you not lean into the programmable technology? Let's go back to Jeremy for a response. And I know I said Mosher, but Simple Farmer was up here. Before Mosher came up, I said we go to him. So we're going to go back to Jeremy for a response, then Simple Farmer, then Mosher. then we got another quirky quirk coming up too. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be really quick, and I want to also invite anybody who's seeing VFriends energy on the timeline and curious about what we're doing to message me. I'm happy to give you all the details and spend time with you. My Calendly's in my bio. Sorry for the shill cap. What I wanted to add to what you're talking about is I do think it's important to have compassion for the teams, because the tools that allow for this are not out of the box ready yet. And we've had this conversation on this space before, where just the tools for onboarding are not where you might have expected them to be if you got onboarded in late 2021 or 2022. I don't want to excuse too much, but I do think but the point I want to make is like it's a really good time for the NFT space to move toward a PvE environment and start to share the tools that make this possible. Because, like, yes, we have easy onboarding with things like Privy Wallet, embedded wallets, abstracted wallets. But for what we do on Shopify, we had to create that custom plugin ourselves. There's nobody out there and our plugin isn't even open source. And I'm kind of on the other side saying, like, maybe it should be. Like, these projects should be sharing more resources and more of their mistakes with each other so that we can move faster. Similarly, like, we have our Burn Island interface where, based on NFTs you hold, you can burn the book games and get NFTs, physical products, cards, etc. That took like several months to release, and then probably a year and a half to refine, to the point where now it's really starting to hum. So I don't want to disagree with you, but I do think that there are probably a lot of teams who have gotten so close to launch, and had to actually just kill what they were working on because they couldn't get it to work, because the integrations to Web 2 are not as easy as it may seem.
Yeah, no, all good, all fair points. And do appreciate you sharing. No apologies to Shill. I appreciate every time you jump up on stage and give us some insight, and it's the least you can do. So yeah, if anyone does have further questions, wants a deeper dive, you're in great hands with Jeremy. Don't be shy, reach out. And also part of the beauty of NFTs, it's not just on the founder or the leader. There's or employees. Sometimes you'll get a lot of support from those in the community, those that are passionate about the brand, and whether it's something like Welcome Apes that Dort and Lal spearhead and are really that welcoming committee for the Bored Ape Yacht Club. There's so many awesome things that come with this space. It's just I do think it's like a 1 + 1 = 3 type situation, when if the team is focused on alignment and the community is aligned, and one of the ways to show that alignment is different forms of utility and or simply leveraging the tech. Simple Farmer, I saw the hands down, but did you want to get in here on anything we hit this morning, and then we'll go to Mosher next?
Yeah, for sure. Just super bullish on the start of 2026. Really glad to see, for example, Vitalik talking about anything besides airborne diseases when he goes with, blockchain infra based, conversation. Just way better. I think everyone takes it way better. So I was really glad to see super bullish on ETH and everything built on the Ethereum virtual machine going forward. Also nice to see mainnet with really low gas fees, but also really glad to see the Quirkies team here. Really glad to see Jeremy from VFriends, both who were coincidentally on my list of people I wanted to talk to this week. So would love to sit down and chat with you guys regarding getting both VFriends and Quirkies into the Yuga Other Side metaverse, some form of avatar. I think we're building in public here, so why not just do a little BD during the space? We did an awesome activation with Good Vibes Club as well. It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, man, I'm already chatting with Baron and Machiavelli. It's a tall task, but I'm here for it.
Golden, man. Sounds great. And yeah, I mean, it's just the other side stuff is just beautiful marketing stuff, especially with the Coda selfie stick. It's something that I just think it's just like a great way for us NFT communities to collaborate and work together. Yeah, in addition to that, Cap, I'd love to get your thoughts on the news I dropped during Christmas. So, I work for ApeCo, and one of our core pillars is Bored Ape Yacht Club. Obviously, other side gets a lot of love. Ape Chain, ApeCoin gets a lot of love and a lot of bandwidth. And so I've actually been diving deep on ways to create additional speculative interest and buy pressure on the BAYC NFTs. I think earlier in the year, we noticed TokenWorks with the NFT strategies tokens do something really clever, which was for the first time essentially utilize a DeFi based revenue to create buy pressure on NFTs. And although token swaps and token swap fees are a nice piece of revenue, there is a greater piece of revenue in DeFi and crypto, and that's perps, perpetual futures platforms. So I did announce that. And what I decided to build to support this essentially is Clutch Perps, which is a fully stacked, fully loaded perpetual tradings platform. And it's going to dedicate 20% of its net yield, so net fees, profits generated, to an NFT treasury that's going to essentially buy Bored Apes off the floor. And so, in terms of how much can that be? Well, you can look at what perps platforms make. The number one perps platform on Arbitrum is GMX, talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Number one in the world is between Aster and Hyperliquid, obviously making a ton of money, which Hyperliquid uses for buybacks of their token. And so this will be now the first example of a perps trading platform that creates buy pressure on an NFT collection. So I'll be excited to launch that later this month. Just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Excited to see how it plays out. I'm curious to learn more. Definitely have to bring you back for a full deep dive. You said later this month. Do we think I'm guessing second half of the month?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the third or fourth week of January. We're ready now. We're just doing a little bit more beta testing, and I want to release all the additional features with Clutch at the same time. With the leveraged prediction markets on Polymarket pools and Kalshi, it's going to be a new look as well. We're doing an interesting token, but yeah, there's a lot to deep dive. I did an article that I'll pin up top if you don't mind, Cap.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry for Duke. I don't know if the barking's coming through in the background.
Yeah,
do pin it up. And this is the other thing, in all seriousness, I do think I do think alignment matters. I do think perks utility matters. The other thing we really haven't seen in a NFT bull market are some of these other mechanics, some of these other protocols. I guess last NFT season we did have NFT-Fi. We had NFT lending limited, but we did have one then two NFT lending protocols. We didn't have something like NFT strategy. This stuff didn't exist. So now that you have these mechanics, these protocols that theoretically should do more to bolster momentum than did, say, blur farming, it could get exciting if we do see a true run. But looking forward to learning more about what you're planning to launch. Thanks for sharing. Let's go Mosher, and then we'll go quick Mosher GM.
Hi, mate. Hope you had a good Christmas and New Year. I feel like, does anyone else have that thing where between Christmas and New Year, they're in this sort of state of limbo where they don't keep track of the days or what time it is? And so today is my first day back, and I'm kind of like, what dimension am I in? How many?
Oh yeah,
167 unactionable emails that I need to do. I'm like, oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
I hosted Daily Show. We took no days off. We even did
I know. I saw that. I was like, fair play to you, Chris. I mean, clearly you've got your shit in order, because I definitely don't.
Well, even still, I looked at myself on probably both days this weekend and had no idea what day of the week it was. I know I have actual I can't completely check out, and yet still you could have asked me on, I think it might have been Friday. I had no idea and I still had to do.
Did you do Christmas Day?
We did, yeah, but I still lost track.
Wow.
Of days. Still lost track. Oh
no, it's nothing but admiration for that, mate. I mean, I'm when you get started after a time away, and I'm kind of I'm sitting at my desk and I'm like, I've got to do these number crunching, all these sorts of things that are usually actionable at the start of the year. So props to you, man.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, and by the way, if you're not hosting a daily show, or you're not some weirdo like me that's all about consistency and forming routines and habits, don't take your time off. Enjoy your time. Check out, recharge your batteries. It's just became part of our thing here, is showing up every single morning, and took it to the extreme. And now, if I don't miss a day, it's a lot easier to not miss a day, to not take a day off.
Makes perfect sense.
No issues with those who do. It's just, as soon as I take one day off, then it's easier to take another day off at random, and then another day off at random. And everyone will understand. That's cool. But
no, I completely get it. My girl's like that with Pilates. She's like, if I take one day off, I'll take 2 weeks off.
That's why I work out 7 days a week. I know it's not. I know you're supposed to take breaks, but for me, I didn't feel like going to work out yesterday, but I did, because if I go 7 days a week, if I don't go 7 days a week, for me, it's much more likely that not to do 6 or 5. It's probably 3 or 4, becomes the norm, and that's also fine. It's just for me, it works better to do things every single day and hardwire. It's not just a short-term habit. It's literally hardwiring my brain that this is what I do every day, and this show is one of them, at least the 5 days of the week. Go ahead, Marshall. What brought you?
Yeah, no, I admire the consistency, mate. No, I just think the conversation around collectibles, merchandise, and sort of income streams for NFTs or NFT companies is an interesting one. For me, collectibles has been an interesting journey, which certainly not been conclusive as yet, but I'm certainly learning along the way. And I think, as I said previously on the show, I feel like nostalgia is to a certain extent, a business model that is used for like speculative purposes to some extent within certain avenues. And so you would say, well, this might be collectible in the future. And I was thinking about putting together an article towards what I'm learning about collectibles and the journey along the way. And as everyone says, everyone's been collecting for a long period of time. In fact, in the UK, people, there's programs about collectibles, about people that collect egg cups and newspapers with no real intrinsic value. But I think where we're at with Web3, I mean, you made a point earlier. You're like, why can't we just integrate? I mean, you didn't say it exactly, but I kind of asked the question and sort of agreed with you about the integration of blockchain technology amongst the avenues or the income stream avenue of merchandise. So why don't we just integrate this blockchain technology amongst the merchandise that's being proposed via these NFTs? And that does make sense. I also feel I'm not a product specialist by any means, but I kind of feel I think buying a t-shirt or buying something that represents the brand so that you can socially signal that and signify that you indulge in the brand makes sense. I'm really struggling with that collectible aspect of things. And I think the crossover into the NFT world, when we look at external dependencies and utility specifically, what do I get as a result of holding this token, is a conversation all in itself. And it's an exciting one, but also, I believe it certainly bears a degree of caution that everybody should, I think everyone's already learnt now already, right? So someone says, well, we could do this, if you hold this token, we could do that, we could decide that we want to cure cancer or something like that. And it's there is a degree of endless possibilities that speculation drives towards holding the NFT that holds a degree of utility, amongst that speculative position. And so what I really loved about things like Basie, for example, is you get those IP rights with the NFT, and it's that's cemented in place. I mean, there's caveats around, when we look at things like Moonbirds, when they decided to go from exclusive IP rights to Creative Commons licensing, where it's all of a sudden, if you were building, maybe a burger, restaurant or something, and you were using your Moonbird to platform, the IP of that burger restaurant, all of a sudden in a day's time, the following day, your neighbor could use your own Moonbird for intellectual property purposes to actually platform their own burger restaurant. So it was kind of there's a degree of caution there when it comes to, what you actually get as a result of holding the said token. So, but then again, it's I think, the Web3 landscape, I think the main demographic of people, fortunately or unfortunately, that actually currently inhabit Web3 are of speculative nature. So they love that gambling dynamic of, what's coming, what's the anticipation, or what's the expectation. Many of those things are not necessarily cemented in place. And I also feel whilst that ecosystem is propping up Web3, I don't necessarily know if that is conducive with retail onboarding success. And so it's I think if Web3, can be considered somewhat of a casino, does that broaden the scope of indulging the grander populace of the world of saying, come on in, why don't you, participate amongst these said projects? So that was kind of it. That's kind of it really, to be honest with you. But I think, the tangible aspects of merchandise and collectibles, they're actually really fun. Whereas nobody, unless you really love spreadsheets and graphs, then, fill your boots type of thing. If you want to trade in and out of positions, or if you want to leverage trade, that's also fun to a certain extent. But, I think that there just seems to be a different facet and dynamic to Web3 when you start building in these real world assets, and then utilizing real world assets with technology, as you alluded to earlier, really does make sense. But I'm still learning on it. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it's just an interesting conversation, and it makes it so much. It's just NFTs are I just find them really a lot more interesting than liquidity provision or leverage trading. And it's okay, you may be able to make more money, but there's just a certain romance that you don't necessarily get with like holding a brand in your hand in a sense when you have the merchandise. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I agree. I do think like a base core utility is good, important for those that launch with some sort of utility. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but something to, whether it's IP rights or an annual conference. But then when there are opportunities to program back against it, I think they should be taking advantage of those opportunities to think critically about what can we do to incorporate the tech, what can we do to tie these things together. I think every time it's not going to work for everyone, but it may not be utility that someone realizes or alignment that they care about, but it reinforces the alignment of the brand and the holders, the supporters benefiting from holding said asset, benefiting from supporting the brand, being that brand ambassador beyond just the average consumer or someone who sees a merch drop and they go buy the same thing and pay the same price as someone who wasn't holding the asset or supporting the brand. I struggle to see why not do those sort of things. And I think as far as the collectability goes, it's timeline. It's having its long-term timeline versus short-term timeline. And it's hard for me, any of them, to see short-term collectability grow significantly in value in terms of more demand of net new buyers outside of some sort of mania, floor prices running, people making like there's got to be something. I don't see many others entering the space just to collect digital assets just because, without the market continuing to going up, without some excitement rebuilding. And it's easier to, they're not going to buy this asset because, it might get them free shipping or free pair of socks. It's easier to justify why continue to hold this. I like the community, but I can kind of have the same friends whether I hold the asset or not. Like always having something going. It's why I liken it to the analogy be why retail stores, shopping, supermarkets, every month they have a holiday going on. Every month there's a retail holiday. Well, there's always something to talk about. There's always something to promote. There's always a discount. There's always a reason to shop at Publix versus the other place because they've got this special this weekend. Quirky or Moshe, go ahead and get back in here for a response. We'll go Quirky Quirk.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I know you're trying to. I should have really come in earlier, but it didn't really cross my mind. Collectible is just an interesting term, right? Like, so I'm learning about it at the moment. When I was like, what's the difference between modern collectibles and traditional collectibles and like baseball cards? And I don't know anything about them. I mean, I'm still learning in the sense of like when you look at the traditional 1950s collectible cards, they were given away with bubble gum, right? That you buy some bubble gum and you get these cards, and then through the rate of attrition, that some of them get bent or broken or lost or whatever. There's this degree of rarity that established itself through that, and then I think because I can't quite establish whether it's just my own degree of discovery, right? But I'm like, where all like there's box breaking and all these sorts of things as collectible cards and all this. And I'm like, is this new? Is this just is this because of the ecosystem that I've been operating in? And it's kind of like, it's always been, I don't think it's always been there, but there seems to be this certain spotlight at the moment when it comes to sports cards or collectibles in general. And I'm trying to figure out really if it's always been there to the extent that it's presenting itself currently, and then what that necessarily means. And I really don't know. I feel like when I look at a brand and I love the brand, I want to support the brand. And I don't care about if I was to buy a piece of merch, maybe I do care about the speculative value in the future. But then I don't know. I'm talking in circles, but I feel like from a merchandise avenue for an income stream for an NFT company, that makes perfect sense, because it's like, well, you can't just keep, or maybe you can keep releasing NFT collections, but then you get this trickle down effect of dilution, don't you? So then the exclusivity of the said original Genesis collection, becomes more or less diluted. There's two ways to it, isn't there? But then again, are we viewing NFTs as a collectible, or are we viewing them based on their external dependencies? A good example of an NFT project was the Etithad one, where they would, if you bought the NFT, you'd get access to the business class lounges for you, and then I think for for a +1 as well. And I was like, that's a priced in NFT project, right? But it doesn't leave any degree of price volatility subject to speculation, because it's like, well, you know what you get, right? And I think there is this dance that Web3 currently does within that volatility towards price discovery for the project. And I just view it from a consumer standpoint, mate, to be honest. I'm like, if I'm a consumer, how do I best spend my money to get the maximum value extraction as a result of things? And I also obviously try to be empathetic towards a company standpoint that's through its, like, in its formative stages. So it's like, well, we've already released an NFT project. How can we make more money to go through, the season, the ups and downs of, the general markets and its volatilities and its, and its drawbacks. So yeah, really, I really love talking about and learning, just like listening and learning. So I appreciate you letting me talk on it.
Yeah, no, thanks for adding. And good segue, actually. The last thing I want to hit on here today is specific to NFTs. And you mentioned there, like, secondary collection, or this one I think is launching a secondary collection. How they're doing it, I appreciate, because it's not new supply. I mean, new tokens, but not new supply that's going to dilute the existing collection. Rather, the only way to get it is to burn. I do have pinned up top an article, or rather a post that links to an article from Bored Ape Gazette on this heavy metal burn claim/activate. The window to reactivate your heavy metal bots for the project's reboot season closes tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's in 13 minutes. Find out more here. Links to this article, which goes on to say, as mentioned, the window closes here in 13 minutes. 2026 is shaping to be the year of heavies, as new heavy metal owners Adam Weitzman and Gabe get ready to transform the forgotten bots sitting in hidden folders into a thriving project complete with new art, other side avatars, and more. But before any of that can happen, holders need to turn their HVs back on chain. We are sparing no expenses to make heavy metal legendary. We need but we need you to take the first steps with us. Weitzman tweeted last week, activate your heavies, detach your amps. We're building something for the long term, but the first window closes on January 5th, and we don't have a date yet set for the second window. Don't let your heavies gather dust. So PSA, action to take right now. You got 12 minutes. If you have any heavy metals in your wallet, go click the link up top or go to the heavy metal site. It's also linked in this article, and make sure you hit claim activate. I mentioned earlier I had a bid in. That bid just hit. So I'm going to go do this in real time and get my claim activated because I want to support and follow along. You can see the screenshots here. If you're looking, it'll after you activate, it detaches your bot, the amps that are in your bots. I have no idea what I just got other than it, like I said, a collection offer hit. So we'll go find out here in a second. But for, again, you'll eventually be forced to make a choice. It's either upgrade to a bot to its Evo 2 form by using the 6 amps, or burn the bot to receive a new pet. I'm probably going to go the burn route to receive the pet, but I don't know what is happening with my bots. Because he's not working for heavy metal. But the next thing I'm going to do after I go reclaim and activate here is I am going to move this over to Ape Chain. So I'm going to go to Simple Farmer, and then we'll go back to Jeremy. Simple Farmer, after I claim and activate, I'm going to bridge it to Ape Chain. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, if you want to participate in some of the, Ape Chain activations. There's a lot of community events for any NFT community that exists on Ape Chain. I'm a big holder of heavy metal, and so this is, not financial advice or not the views of ApeCo and all that good stuff. But personally, I just am in deep contact with, Gabe and Adam and the team there. I'm super bullish on any team that's as passionate as they are, with obviously ample resources to do a lot of great work, and who just want to have fun in the process. Like they've mentioned, they're not like trying to play games or do any form of, scam pumps, however you want to call them. So it's just going to be like a plain, honest building process. And I do have some interesting information. Obviously, you'll have the option to evolve to an Evo 2, but you'll have to have 6 amps. The other option is you can burn one or more of the Evo 1s to get the Evo pets, the heavy metal pets collection, which is going to be a brand new collection, and every pet is one of one. And also,
just to be clear, I don't have to decide that
sorry.
today. All I'm going to do is confirm the burn for activation, but I don't have to determine if I want to go the pet route or the Evo 2 today. I just need to do this confirm claim so that I'm reactivated for season 2, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And then you'll see how many amps you have. And then
So
the
I
next
have
thing I
6
know that
amps.
they're
So
working on is a peer-to-peer marketplace where NFT users from all of the big collections that Adam has been investing in, where those users will be able to trade NFTs with each other, without a middleman. And there's going to be some cool additional features there. So really love what that team is doing. So just want to shout them out.
Yeah, for sure. I will hit on one other piece of Adam news here if we have time today. But let's go back to Jeremy, and then I'm guessing Machiavelli came up to mention something about heavy metals as well. So before I claim, I will we'll get Machiavelli in here. Jeremy, go ahead.
It's not possible to see which heavies have amps on OpenSea, is it?
Good question.
Magic Eden.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
Magic
you go.
Oh,
Eden.
Magic Eden has it.
So
Okay, cool.
I
What I
just
was
I
Go
have
ahead.
this one. They hit my offer on. They're all commons, but it shows 6 amps. So I just got lucky that it had 6 amps, huh?
Nice.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Nice.
I was gonna ask, am I wrong in thinking that there were originally 30,000 heavies for 10K apes and 20K mutants?
There was 30,000 heavies.
That's pretty impressive. Half of them activated. That's I mean, given sentiment and where attention is and how long it's been since heavy had its game moment, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think a lot of that has to do with how active, not just Adam and Gabe both are in the space at large beyond just their own ecosystem, their own community. I think it goes a long way when you talk about the other communities he's supporting. Often that is reciprocated, and it is one of the nice things about this space. It's networking to the how it should be done in many cases. Where I'm not saying scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, but most of us here, you said it earlier, like it's a good time to enter like a PvE environment, not PvP. I think most of us here have far more in common than we don't, and we probably share far more in common with each other than an average member of the general population. So I do let, whether it's Gary hopping on spaces and supporting other founders, whether it's Adam buying NFTs or pulling together events. That's one thing I'll hit on here in a second. We'll go to Quirky Quirk, and then I'll come back to this. But I think I'm done here. I've successfully selected my heavy metal and my amps. I got them claimed, so I'm good until next season, right, Machiavelli?
I mean, you're good until they say we're good.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that once Gabe and them are gonna make another announcement once the deadline's over and stuff like that, but they're not gonna close the next window. I didn't know that half are already ported over. I know that there was at the beginning of the weekend there was somewhere 6,000 of the collection that was activated. And if you're telling me that halfway's activated right now, man, that's just exciting.
I think so.
I'm just going off OpenSea. Says there's 15,200 in the collection.
That's awesome.
I think it's pretty impressive. Quirky Quirk, go ahead, get in here.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm all about that heavy metal, even though I'm not in the community. I'm a big metal fan, so rock on, everybody. But I might need to get into that. Anyway, actually, it's a good segue. A couple different things that were said here are good segues to just a couple points I wanted to make. I was in that space yesterday with Poppy and Gary and Jeremy, and it was just awesome to see all of the communities coming together that like Loki and Machiavelli and Alpha were having everybody come together from all walks of Web3 life. And I think that in my mind has still been, and as we've talked Captain before, like the network effect to me has always been the best part about this whole thing, and the people that I've met doing it in all these different areas of life that I never would have come into contact with. So I think one, that was an incredible space, and I caught a couple clips of it that I put in the comments. I think you saw as well. So it was kind of fun to hear Gary talk about it, and then also hear Jeremy expand more on it because he's got that in-depth knowledge of what they're doing. But according to what he was saying, I think what's awesome to hear from him about Gary's thoughts and his thoughts on it is how, even though they've got all these awesome in real life, and I guess I wouldn't call them IRL activations, but just touch points for Web2 people, right? For like regular people out in the world that want to interact with cool characters and comics and books. Like they've got so many touch points for it, which is actually what got me into the VeeFriends world to begin with. I didn't even own one until yesterday, mostly because I like to root for the underdog, to be frank. And I was like, I'm going to support the Quirkies and Long Lost and some of these other smaller communities used to be smaller communities now getting a lot larger. But I think what's cool is that they definitely keep in mind the fact that, hey, like, even if you can get into it no matter what by buying into it. You don't have to own the NFT to take part in the community, which is what I did. Like, I had a book that I would read, still read actually, the Meet Me in the Middle book to my 7-year-old. I have a bunch of other like cards that they're super generous with on doing live spaces and giving cards away to people, honestly, to be able to get people into it. And after literally 4 years of touch points, which is kind of embarrassing to say, like yesterday, I finally bought a V2. And I talked to Jeremy about it. He's like, that's exactly what we want to do is have all these touch points with people, just like marketing in the real world, right? And like you take 6, 7, 8 touch points with somebody sometimes to get them into a community. And that's like actually legitimately what happened with me yesterday and with them. But I love the fact that they're also, while they have all these touch points for regular people, quote unquote, regular people, they're also don't forget their base, right? And I think they're very good, from what I can tell and what I've heard, about ensuring that people who own the NFTs are always given something, some percentage off, or given early access to something. And I think that's definitely, in my experience from a lot of other communities I've been with, there have been some serious misses with that. And I think that's the unfortunate part of some of the things that have gone on in this space, that I think you need to be very, very delicate and knowing that, hey, like, this base has been with you from the very beginning. And for me, one example of that, and I love this project, but I have had issues with it, is with Micah Johnson and the Akitars. And I love it. Like, I'm a former professional baseball player myself, and I love Micah's story about being a former professional baseball player himself. And he's had some amazing activations with Major League Baseball. Even last year during the All-Star game, I don't know if people know this or not, but he created statues that were given out to the All-Star players of his character, the Akitar, and were given out as special, basically, awards for them being All-Stars. Like, it's no joke. Like, he has had some incredible activations. They've had Akitar statues on like Fox telecasts of the World Series. So like, he's doing some amazing, amazing things for the space and bringing visibility. And I love him for that and his team for that. But that being said, I was pretty miffed when, like, as a longtime holder, like, we weren't even able to get access to it. And I think there's probably stuff on the back end of it, like, MLB was probably like, hey, this is a very serious exclusive thing, and like, we can't let anybody else have access to this potentially. But it hurt a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was like, hey, this is kind of a raw deal. Like, here's our character, like, finally in the limelight, finally in Major League Baseball, where, like, I spent a lot of my time playing professional baseball, not major league, but playing minor league baseball. And like, I was a little bit like, hey, that's kind of shitty that we couldn't even get access to it in some way, shape, or form, right? There are also baseball card set that he did with Topps, actually. That was a Negro League baseball set, a really awesome baseball set for that matter. And that was another little bit of a miss. I still got some, but like, there wasn't even like an early access drop for us. So there have been a few things here and there where I would say that's an example of like, just to beware and be careful, because that's a little bit of a raw deal for people who have been supporting you for 4 years now. So that was one thing I wanted to say. The other crew, though, that like on the exact opposite of the spectrum,
real quick, if I
that
get
did
on,
this, yeah,
real quick, if I can get on that, is yeah, valid. I do, so don't create expectations yourself, and it is easy. Everyone's different, but it is easy to feel as if you were overpromised, underdelivered here. One thing I did see, I thought I saw about this, I could be wrong, but I think they just did like a feature book at Barnes and Noble, like one that Barnes and Noble is getting behind and pushing themselves.
Yep,
and
they did.
I thought he included members of the community holders IP in the book. Is that not right?
I think that there's some of it. I don't know exactly whose was used. I know there were a few, like, my name is Glitch. I think his stuff was in there. Like, I've seen him post on it. I'm not sure exactly. There wasn't like a call out for IP, I don't believe.
Okay.
But that being said, like, it's still super cool. I mean, he's doing some amazing stuff in collaborations with, like you said, Barnes and Noble and New Era Caps and Major League Baseball. So like, I loved it. I'm super bullish on him. It's like part of the betting on the jockey, right? And like, he's somebody that I know just because of his background, and in part because of his sports background as a professional athlete. Like, he's not going to give up until he makes it. I just know it, So, but yeah, you're right. That there is that activation. I think for us, it was like an early like 25% off, which that was cool, right? I'll take that for sure. But yeah, that was just an example. I was just giving an example of some of the times that it came off, and obviously there's no expectations of it. I just think you want to be careful to really include your communities, because in the end, like that's the strong base that's going to go out there and be the like proselytizing for you and want to tell people about it and want to make that flywheel effect, you know?
Yep, exactly. Further to the point earlier, like there's even when they're not obligated, I think it's a net positive. It's beneficial for them, for the brand. It's a good business decision to provide some sort of perk, some sort of benefit, whether it's discount or free shipping or early access. It can be different every time, but always do something for your base just to at least show that you're aligned. It may not always be the alignment they're hoping, but anytime there's an opportunity to incorporate the technology, I think it should be at least be attempted. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was going to say, just in kind of contrast to that, and it's kind of unfortunate, but like the other community that did activations galore and did everything that I felt was humanly possible for the holders, was the Megadeth digital team. And I think Jillian Valentin's here, and the phenomenal AV and Mad Potters, like they're with World of Women now. But as part of the Megadeth digital group that and NFT that I bought a couple years ago, like, I mean, I've been sent little tiny, like awesome Megadeth guitar models, and got to meet and was front in line for VIP access to meet and greet the band. Like, this is a platinum, like one of the highest earning acts in history, right? And they made sure that us as holders felt like VIPs nonstop. And so I feel like if somebody like that can do it, like there's no reason that all of these other projects can't do something similar, right? I mean, they're working with, they had been working with the top band in the world, and sadly that Megadeth digital platform is shut down as of like early this year, but it was one of the most incredible experiences, like over and over again with them. Like they'd send like stickers from old tours and like personalized notes. Like they really went above and beyond to make people feel special and be part of the team. And you know, so much so that like I will wear that badge proudly. Like even if the Megadeth digital army is not a thing, like I'm a fan for life for what they've done.
Yeah, no, awesome. I saw Jillian giving the hearts. I'm sure she appreciates the kind words as well. And lifetime utility is challenging. And that's why I also think like some of these, from a structural standpoint, one of the things that VFriends and Gary has their advantage is they rolled this out with utility. So they set that expectation of utility, but it was time bound. It was only 3 years. They've delivered upon that. And so they're not obligated to do anything else, but they're also smart business people that they're going to, from time to time, align when they can, use the tech where they can. I'm sure if there's another VCon, that's probably going to be part of the pass, or probably get free tickets. So I'm sure they're not saying this. I'm saying this, and I'm saying this because maybe it's not free, but you'll if you're a VFriends 1 holder and there's another VCon in 2027, you're probably going to get a free or discounted ticket. Yeah, like I would bet any amount of money if there's ever another VCon, VFriends 1 holders, probably more, are going to at least get a discount or some sort of extra perk or access. Maybe it's VIP, who knows? But I would be shocked if it's just another ticket sale and you get no perks. You don't even get priority order for holding an OG asset. Like they'll program against the tech because they can, and it makes sense to do so. Shout out to Pingu Rate in the abstract chat. Appreciate the Pingu tip over there, especially as Pingu continues to rise. I think it was Diablito who said it earlier. It's like the account balance looking up and up on the screen today. 2 other things here, and I'll get you all out of here. One, I just pinned up top. Well, I did pin up top since we were talking about it, the Aku in Barnes and Noble book. If you're interested, check out that more up top. Also, like the more you know, if you weren't aware, if you weren't around back then, this is one of the tragic, probably more tragic smart contract stories that I can remember in crypto. Micah minted the Aku Dreams, or Aku's the avatars, the space head that the character he's made popularized. There was an NFT collection. There still is, but it's the second, I believe. I'm going to probably butcher the specifics here, but the TLDR, the first one that he minted, there was an error in the contract. Maybe it is still the OG collection, but the the mint funds, which at the time, this was like maybe not Pico top, but it was definitely during the bull, because the mint was around $37-38 million worth of ETH at the time. And the developer coded something wrong in the contract, and they weren't able to remove the funds. So the funds are still locked in that contract. You could probably go find it. I'm sure someone could find it on chain. I don't know what the ETH price was at that point, but it's tens of millions of dollars locked in a smart contract that they'll never have access to. So respect for continuing to mint and not give up. A lot of people might have thrown in the towel after that moment. Go ahead and fill in the details.
Yeah, just want to say quick. Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason why I'm betting so hard on him is that he has not given up at all. Right? I think it was like a 0.5 or 0.05 or point. It was something that at that time it was too expensive for me to mint, so I didn't actually mint when I minted, even though I'd heard about it. But yeah, it was something like 30 million or more that got just locked in the wrong address, I think. But despite that, like he was one of those people that made it right, like from the get go. He's like, I own this. This was obviously an egregious mistake, but I'm going to make this right for everybody. And I believe he has and has continued to deliver and is on a mission to keep delivering. I haven't seen anybody with as much persistence in the space in a while or ever, basically. I mean, it's pretty wild what he's been able to do, even with that massive false start.
Yep, pretty like I said, tragic. Glad he's continued to persist, and love to see it. I was going to check the contract. It's not, yeah, that at least once. Let me check the deployer contract. No, I'm sure it's out there though. If anyone wants to go track that down, I'll do a proper more someday. The other thing I pinned up top, and we will dive into this deeper tomorrow. So some, I would say light, but more so heavy reading if you're into that sort of thing. Big long post from Vitalik. I'll share it on screen and just TLDR it, and then we'll get you out of here. Appreciate everyone who joined the conversation today. As always, there might be a couple of loose ends I need to tie up before I play you out, but I quote Vitalik: Ethereum was not created to make finance efficient or apps convenient. It was created to set people free. I'm going to read that again. Vitalik starts his post with a quote: Ethereum was not created to make finance efficient or apps convenient. It was created to set people free. He goes on to say this was an important and controversial line from the Trustless Manifesto, linked here, trustlessness.eth.limo, and it's worth revisiting and better understanding what it means here. Efficient and convenient have the connotation of improving the average class in situations where it's already pretty good. Efficiency is about telling the world's best engineers to put their souls into reducing latency from 473 to 368 milliseconds or increasing yields from 4.5 to 5.3 APY. Convenience is about making people one click instead of three and reducing sign-up times from 1 minute to 20 seconds. While these things can be good, he goes on to talk about resilience, and it's not about 4.5 to 5.3. It's about minimizing the chance you get negative 100% APY. This will be good. Deep dive tomorrow with the big brain outer lumen. Excited for that. Again, trustlessness.eth.limo if you want to read the full manifesto. It's shared up top, but I will not be reading that in full detail today. Maybe we'll paraphrase tomorrow, but it is a not like ridiculously long read, but it is likely worth at least getting a basic understanding. So if you don't want to read any of it, tune in tomorrow and you get to hear from not just myself, but Outer Lumen as well, who'll be joining us for a special co-host of the day tomorrow. It was Vitalik, Marissa Posner, and Yovav Weiss that wrote this one. And just as like check back, I mentioned we hit on the headline. We didn't really dive into details, but the Infinex ICO is live now. Sale started at 99 million. Not seeing a lot of early traction, but it's early. It's live until January 10th. So we'll do a deeper dive on that tomorrow, see where they're at. There was also a Ledger data breach via payment processor Global E, which leaked the personal data of customers. I don't know if there's anything you do now. Unfortunately, I'm a Ledger customer, not real happy. I do have a Grid Plus. Probably going to consider making the switch to Trezor. Just feels better than Ledger's continues snafu after snafu. I mentioned in passing Walmart, again, accepting Bitcoin, ETH, and crypto for payments in their stores. And Bank of America officially began recommending clients to invest up to 4% of their portfolios. We will be live back tomorrow at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Eastern time with Outer Lumen. I'm going to pin that pin that link up top as we play you out. If you've not yet given that a reminder, do so during the outro. We'll be back at 8 tomorrow, and you maybe taking bets on which movie character I will mistake for another, or I don't know, pronounce something wrong. I'm sure there'll be maybe not as many bloopers as today, but certainly some bloopers. Even better when I can take a serious topic and have multiple unforced errors. Is maybe that's the new segment, unforced errors by Cap. Might stick. We'd have something to talk about almost every show for sure. Tuesday coffee with Outer. Go give this thing some love. Would appreciate the not just reminders but repost on this that I'll pin up here in a second. Jeremy, go ahead. Closing thoughts.
Unforced Errors is a fantastic band name. I think you should at least have a segment, like a new set, as you're like, because I know I've heard a little bit. You're like thinking about a minor rebrand, and you're just like finding this new, you know, God bless him, Steve just disappeared. Nobody knows where he went. I think Unforced Errors is, I don't know why that just hit with me. I actually wanted to just, if I may, take advantage of the curiosity. I know everybody wants to hear from Gary, and we have a very, very big show tonight. I think one of the reasons people think Gary maybe is not as active is because we do our live shows on Whatnot. And so it's a little friction, download an app, but this is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest live social shopping platform in the world. And we are very, very active there. But tonight we have Gary and our head of comics, DJ Kaufman. And for people who are interested in like what's actually going on under the hood, I couldn't recommend it more. And you can, I can pin up a tweet. It's not even necessary. You can find it very easily. Follow Gary, go to the VFriends channel, and yeah, I just wanted to thank you again for the space, Captain. Like it's nice to see buzz about VFriends, and I think that I hope to see that trend continue.
Agreed. It's nice. I appreciate you joining us. It's nice to see buzz about VFriends. It's nice to see buzz about all these NFT collections. It's nice to be talking about heavy metals and they're doing something new on chain. It's just it's nice to have things to talk about. It's nice to have buzz. And the more, to tie it all together today, the more these NFT brands do things, the more, like this space tonight, that's providing utility. Maybe it's not, maybe you don't have to be a holder to participate, but it gives the community something to look forward to. And
absolutely,
I think most that community that is a holder, they know that there is some alignment there, and that even if it is just the collectability, they can feel a little more confident in that because it's from someone that is all about collectability, and it's part of his career from way back of collecting things and collectibles appreciating. And so it's a little different than your average on-chain collectible, I would say, due to Gary and what he does and has done. And so all the other things, it's twofold. It is the events, it's the community, and then tapping into the tech when you can, at least making an attempt, even if it's not the thing that, not expecting it to send floor prices. That's not it. But I think just that alignment is more powerful than a short-term floor pump. Get you out of here. The YouTube is linked up above once more. If you haven't given us a subscription over there, greatly appreciate it. We'll be back. So pinned up top is the YouTube link. Go hit us with a sub as we play us out. The link to tomorrow's show with Outers up there. Any love on that would be greatly appreciated. And then as we're playing out, you can scroll in a few other things we mentioned. We mentioned Ranger is coming soon. There's a TLDR on that. That's the next ICO. There's a mega ETH deployment called Cap Money. I don't know what it is other than I said this is literally calling my name. So I'm going to check that out after I get off the show today. There is the Ledger alert we mentioned, the post from Zach at XPT, and then OSF in probably more words, but less words actually. Short post talks about just the kind of the state of the market and those spidey senses. Says feels like we're one strong equity opening away from full risk in crypto. These are the times to truly lock in if you want to take a shot at changing your life. Months of logging in every day to bad prices come down to moments like these. Are you going to take the bet or not? And it's early, but markets opening up well. I think I saw NASDAQ up almost a full percent in the as the market opened today. So hopefully that continues and the day closes on a good note. Be safe out there as always. Never any financial advice or geopolitical advice. I'm definitely not qualified to really speak on either of those things, but I do my best to share some information, some education, and if you like laughing at me in my unforced eras, a little bit of fun and humor as well. Thanks again for being here. We'll be back tomorrow. Go hit that YouTube link up top. Appreciate y'all. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow at.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.